Hey guys, so many things to talk about, so many things that I want to talk about, and I just don't even know how. Today I went to my cousin's house up north. They were sitting Shiva for for my great uncle. My great uncle came here in Israel in the 1930s, late 1930s. He was immediately imprisoned in Akko. Okay, he was a 14-year-old kid, basically escaping the Nazis. His whole entire family died. My grandfather had left Europe earlier and went to North America, so he was the only other person. He came, and we don't really know what happened to the family. But anyway, so here's this 14-year-old kid escaping Europe, and the British Mandate occupied this area. They called it British Mandate Palestine. So for all the idiots who are calling for the river to the sea, and we're going to get back to this, meaning I'm gonna talk about all this people that don't want the Jews to live. They don't care. Okay, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. When I'm telling you about my uncle, because he was 99 years old and he died last week, and he died secular. It's, like people maybe haven't seen my other videos. That's fine. I used to be secular. I used to be atheist. Didn't believe in God. I was Jewish, raised basically conservative Jewish, kind of. Zero concept of God, zero concept of what it meant to be a Jew, the nation of Israel, the Torah. All of my information was secular. Just like most of your information is secular. If you're looking on YouTube. So we don't even really know what it means to be a Jew. And I know this for a fact because that was me. That was me living in a different ideology. An unholy ideology, not with the ideology of Judaism. Judaism is not just like a religion, like all the other religions. Like, I think that most Jews are severely misled in this. And I put it all together in different videos talking about the Holocaust, what happened to our Jewish identity, to our national identity after the Holocaust, and what happened after 1948 with the state of Israel. And it's not just for no reason that Yom HaAtzmaut is right after Yom HaShoah, the Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I'm not saying it in a good way, like we used to think it was like that, or some of you still do, that it's there to show that we've overcome and that never again, and that the Holocaust can never happen again because now we have the state of Israel. And I think you guys should all be aware of October 7th by now. It did. It happened here. It happened in Israel. Now, my great uncle, he came from Europe, and he eventually, after he was released from prison for just being a Jew coming to Israel, and again, we were going to talk about that, in 1946, out of that same landmass, part of that landmass that was British Mandate Palestine went to Jordan. I don't hear anyone talking about Jordan. That always bothered me. Why are we talking about Israel? Like, Jordan is bigger than Israel. It's made out of the same area that was held by the British Mandate. Why isn't anyone talking about Jordan? Oh, it's not anti-Semitic, has nothing to do with the Jews. It's just really about the land. What about Jordan? Jordan's a made-up country with no historical connection to that land. I mean, people are so stupid at this time. This time in history. 5,784 out of 6,000 at the end of time. And I'm going to ask you a few questions right now. What are we living for? In specifically you, what are people living for anyway these days? What's the goal of the Jewish people at this time and the nation of Israel? What's our goal? Why do we want to survive so badly? For what? To be just like all the 70 Goy nations? For what? To make money? For what? To control the world with our scheming plans of controlling the world. Like, I mean, seriously. So what are we here for anymore? There was a time when the Jewish nation was a holy nation, a nation of priests, Kohanim, for God, the creator of our reality and our universe, which we know is 5-dimensional. It's a 5-dimensional hyperspace, 3 in the physical, 1 in the spiritual, 1 in time. The whole concept of Judaism, what separates us from all of the other nations, is this knowledge. This knowledge that was given in the Torah, this knowledge that was given from God and passed down through all of the generations through this line until it was written down in the Torah and commanded of us, the holy nation of Israel, to keep and to lishmo, to preserve and to keep and not to change even one letter. And that was our goal, and that has always been our goal, and that is what has saved us and driven us throughout history. That's literally the only thing that says King Solomon in Kohelet, King Solomon, the most wise person to ever live, that a generation goes and a generation comes, and the earth endures. He says that in Kohelet. Okay, and he says that's like the nation of Israel, because nations come and nations go, but the nation of Israel endures. Why? Because we toil in what is above the sun. He said there's something above the sun, something below the sun. That means there's something spiritual and something physical. So there's a physical reality, which we are all pretty much aware of, even though you wouldn't notice when people are, bumping into each other and giving absolutely no, concept of spatial distances, but there's a physical and there's also spiritual, and also time is an element of our reality that we must be aware of. We must be aware of it because otherwise it has no meaning, right? In your secular life, what does time mean other than the timetable that you are chained to because your master is either your ego or your job or what other what do you call it? I'm tired today. What do you even call it? Things that you're addicted to, your addictions. Wow. What is your master? Because it should be God. When it is God, time means something. Time means you get up in the morning, you pray. Time means you pray mincha before sundown. Time means you pray, you have a Shabbat. Time means something. Time means also this, that we know we're at the end of time because we're aware of it. Because we are supposed to integrate the physical, the spiritual with the time in our reality. That is what we are tasked with. That is why it was given to the Jews. Because the Jews, in case you haven't noticed, very smart people, right? Our Jew brains are so smart. But this is why we're smart. We're supposed to be smart here in Judaism, in Jewish ideology. And we were told time and time again, do not go over here. Do not break down this fence that is between the Jews and the non-Jews. Separate yourself from the Jews over and over and over. We are told that. That's what we did all throughout history. And so King Solomon says that a generation goes and a generation comes and the earth preserves or perseveres, whatever, something like that. And he says so too. So we saw Babylon. Where's Babylon now? Gone. Where's Egypt? Gone. Where's Rome? Pretty much gone, although we can discuss that later. Esav. Vatican. You think that you even understand your physical reality at this point? Do you understand your physical reality at this point? Explain everything to me, please. Explain COVID. Explain Pizzagate. Explain just literally everything. Climate change. So stupid. Seriously. Explain your physical reality, let alone the spiritual, which most people are absolutely, completely clueless of. It's all given there for us in the Torah. It was all handed down through this line, and we were commanded never to stray from it. Do not even change one letter. Don't change anything, and it will, by the way, benefit you. Why? Because just like everything ultimately is ticking down time, also in your life, we're told we have 70 years on this life. If we're lucky, 80. That's in Tehillim. We also know, we always say, Ad Mea Esrim, 120. The years of a man's life. Now, do you live every single year the exact same way? Do you use your time that way? And then eventually you die? What have you done? What have you accomplished? What have you learned? What have you asked yourself? Why are you here? Why are you here and why are we here, Am Yisrael, nation of Israel? Are we here just so now the land of Israel, which is occupied by the Zionist state, and now there is no holy nation of Israel? Now there's just a bunch of Israelis. What's our goal? Why are we living? Do we have one? We do. This is it. We are failing. We are failing, Am Yisrael. We're failing our whole history. We're failing Judaism. Judaism 101. I don't know. We're failing because unlike any time in history, have most of the Jews, a majority of the Jews have now left the Jewish ideology. We're mixed in here so much with the 70 nations. What are we fighting for anymore? Are we fighting just for this land? Why? What does this land mean to us? It means something, and it means it because it's in the Torah. The Torah is not for nothing. You cannot claim that this land is ours. Just for why? Because of the Torah. So then you have to recognize the Torah and you have to understand it, at least learn it. And why am I talking like this today? Why am I thinking about this today? Because last week, so I was telling you, my great uncle came here in the 30s. He's 99 years old. When he died last week, he came here, like I said, he was imprisoned in Akko, and then he went down and he established one of the first kibbutzim down near the Gaza border. Okay? And October 7th, so this is somebody who, all throughout my life when I've been coming back and forth to Israel and whatever, we got along amazingly. Like, we had such a nice relationship. And until, of course, I became a Torah observant Jew. And then everything broke down because he hated to see that. He hated to see me look like a Jew, to dress like a Jew, and to be interested in Jew things like the Torah, to want to talk about our reality. Why? Because he was convinced that because after the Holocaust, where was God? And again, I do give this reference of A Divine Madness by Rabbi Avigdor Miller, which I think he gives a very compelling answer to that question. Okay, where was God during the Holocaust? Why did the Holocaust happen? Why did anything throughout our history happen? Well, we have answers for all those things. Why did Purim? Why did the decree of Ahasuerus and Haman go out when Ahasuerus was the king over the entire world? And Haman said, let's kill all of the Jews all over the world. And that's what they were going to do. So why did that happen? Why did October 7th happen? Why did the Inquisition happen? Why did the pogroms happen? Why did the Dreyfus Affair happen? Why did any of those things happen? Well, there are certain things that Am Yisrael is supposed to do. Like I said, we were given also as guarantors of getting the Torah, because the Torah is like the blueprint of our reality. And the angels at that time protested against Moses. They're like, why would you give the Torah to him? Like, don't give it to him. And God was like, no, these people, because we come from Abraham and Sarah, and we're told also at the end of time to go back and look where we came from. It says that in Yeshaya, in Isaiah. He says, go back and look from where you come. You come from Abraham and Sarah, who were very, very special. And maybe I will do, we don't know that much about Sarah, but she was amazing. But Abraham, I'm going to, Bli Neder, I really want to do like a get to know Abraham class, because he was special. He had a time when everyone was like worshiping idols and no one thought about God or knew about God. And he went out and he really discovered God. He was like looking at nature. He was a genius and he was so special. And that's where we come from. And so it was given through this lineage, through Yitzchak, through Yaakov and the 12 tribes. And then in Mitzrayim, in Egypt, Levi was never a slave. Why? Because he kept this. You can't be a slave. Like I said, you can't serve two masters. So what's your time? If you're beholden to your ego, to your job, to your addictions, whatever, your time is set by someone else. The difference between a slave And a free person is basically this element, time. Who controls your time? Now, there is no such thing actually as being a free person, because you're either a slave to something, or you're a slave to someone, or you're a slave in essence to God. But it's a privilege to be a slave to God. That's where we want to be. We want to be serving God. We want to be Ovdei Hashem, the workers of God, God's agents here on in our physical reality. Because we are supposed to use this information to connect the physical and the spiritual aspects of our reality and be aware of time. So my great uncle sets up the kibbutz down in the south. And he tells me all the time, up until I became religious, that, he's really realized the goals of his life, and he feels very satisfied. And they did it. They're basically saying that we didn't need God to set up to come back. This whole thing about the exile and whatnot. And we didn't even need the Torah, and we didn't need God. We just needed to put our, I don't even know how to say this, but get down there and, into the swamps and clean it up, and manpower. That's all we needed. Our brains, our manpower, our initiative. We did it. And we have the mighty army, the IDF, who's been protecting us. Look at how amazing our army's been throughout all of history. 48 war, the Yom Kippur war, the 6-Day war, every war, they try to kill us, but we win because of the IDF. Meanwhile, in reality, people can't understand how those wars were won. They try to figure it out and they just can't explain it. There was always an element of kind of a little bit of a miracle in Israel. Okay, but now you get to the year 2023. And on October 7th, and now we're the most high tech, we're the startup nation, we have so much high tech, and just nothing worked, right? Complete breakdown. So my great uncle, a 99-year-old man, is stranded in his kibbutz. Thank God they didn't, he survived, but he was 12 hours in his safe room for 12 hours waiting for the IDF that he was so proud of, because we came back to this land and we conquered it and we're living here. And yet he had ideals. Obviously, it was a tremendous time in history. The Holocaust, all that stuff. Yes, it was amazing. And there were open miracles done for us. And then we strayed away. We strayed so far from the Torah, you guys. We strayed. How can you not see the hand of God on October 7th? We strayed so far. What are our ideals? What are we living for? To be the most liberal country in the Middle East? To be so gay friendly that it's ridiculous that gays would support Palestine? Gays for Palestine, how stupid. How stupid Jews for Palestine? Jews for gays. It's ridiculous. That's anti-God. God commanded us to separate from the nations, to be different and to be holy. And we know how to be holy because it's in the Torah. Okay, and so like we said, we're going to something in time-wise. We're going to an end of time, the Ketz, that the redemption has to happen sometime from now until then. And it could happen anytime. It depends on us. The Holy Ari, he says that this is the way that the redemption is going to come. There's going to be dochak, which is pressure. There's going to have to be repentance. And then there will be redemption. Where is the repentance? That's what God's waiting for and looking for. We have to be a holy nation. We are letting down everybody who came before us. Everybody who came before us, we are letting them down. Why? Let me tell you exactly why and how this ties in to my great uncle dying. So first of all, he lived his whole entire life in that kibbutz. And right after October 7th, after waiting 12 hours for help that never came, he was evacuated to living into some hotel in Tel Aviv. And all he wanted to do was go home. He just wanted to go. He didn't even want to leave the kibbutz. They forced him to leave the kibbutz. Startup Nation with the mighty IDF that couldn't respond on October 7th can also not secure the southern border. So most of the people have been relocated to the north, to the center. So he died last week. I really, and this is the problem. This is the other thing about having no ideals and leaving Judaism. What happens to him now? Do we even know? It says, again, this is Torah anthology, Ma'am Loaz. This is Joseph in Egypt. This is one of my favorite volumes, 3B, Joseph in Egypt. And Joseph was someone unbelievable, amazing. So were all of our forefathers. And it's kidai. It's very worthwhile to go and get a adult education on who our forefathers were and what exactly is in the Torah. And again, time and time again, I suggest the Moam Loaz because it's just all of the Torah in whatever language you speak. Okay, but so here's the thing. So he's talking about, I guess, when Yaakov Avinu died, and then he's talking about death, and it says this is the appropriate place to discuss all the laws of mourning. So that's another thing that Ma'am Loaz does. It will talk about something like Shabbat, and then it will give you all the laws of Shabbat. So it's literally all you need. Look at how many times I folded down. I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. This is interesting. This is so interesting. This is interesting. Everything's so interesting. And it's not like I didn't have a life before this where I like, Baruch Hashem, I had a great life. I traveled the entire world. I did anything I was interested in, I was able to pretty much check out. So it's not like, but this is the most interesting thing in the entire world is the Torah, believe it or not. Okay, so it says here, this is an appropriate place to discuss all the laws of mourning from the time of death until the end of the first year. It is important to know these rules. Death is the most certain thing in the world. One must therefore regret the sins that he has committed and weep because of them. Sin is the cause of death, both for the person himself and for his relatives. The wise Solomon said, "A good name is better than oil. The day of death is better than the day of one's birth." That's in Kohelet 7:1. This can also be read, the day of death is better than the day of his birth. The day of death is better than the day upon which death was born. That is, the day upon which sin was committed, causing it to be decreed that a man should die. When a person sins, he causes great harm to his soul, which is even worse than death. Therefore, one must regret sin and flee from it as from a snake. Therefore, during the first 3 days after death of a close relative, a mourner should view himself as if a sharp sword were hanging over him. During the first week, it should be as if the Satan, stood before him. During the first month, it should be as if he were encountering Satan in the street. For the rest of the year, the tribute of judgment encompasses the entire family. Similarly, if a member of the group dies, the entire group should be concerned. If a person does not observe the laws of mourning, he is considered insensitive and hard-hearted. When confronted by death, one must show concern. Examine his deeds and try to rectify his sins through repentance. Some ignorant people are not concerned when an infant dies, especially when there are many children in the house. Okay, well, anyway, this talks about pretty much all of it. But pretty much the whole thing is that things happen to us when we die. Things happen to our soul and things happen to our body. Things happen within the first 3 days. Things happen within the first month. Things happen within the first year. And those are things that we should actually investigate now while we're alive. Why? Because when you die, if you haven't investigated and you haven't educated your children, or maybe you don't have any children at all because it's not part of your ideology, you know how bad it is for a Jewish man to die without children? Or even worse, to die without even getting married? You think you're a cool bachelor? That's nonsense, unholy 70 nation ideology. You better seriously get it together and start learning some Jewish ideology, some Torah. Why? Because like King Solomon says, that the day of your death, it means more than the day of your birth. At the day of your birth, you could be anything. You're all full potential. At the day of your death, people know who you were. And God knows who you were. God knows what you did with your time. You know, what are you even doing with your time? Are you living each year of your life exactly the same over and over and over and over and over and over? Or are you growing? Because we're supposed to grow. We're supposed to grow in mitzvot and in good deeds and in Torah observance. And our ideal as a nation is to grow in the connection to Hashem. And when we have this connection good enough, then the Geulah, the redemption will happen. We will reestablish the kingdom of David in the land of Israel. We won't need the IDF. We won't need anything. We won't need Biden to give us anything. We won't need anything. All we need is a connection to God, and the temple helps connect our physical reality with the spiritual reality. That's what all of Judaism is, and that's what we were tasked with in this life. And God knows that it's a difficult task. That's why it was given to us stubborn, smart people like the Jews that came from the most amazing people that ever lived, Abraham and Sarah. Abraham and Sarah, I should write that in red. But anyway, so that's why it was given to the Jews. We can't have a bunch of idiots. We can't have a bunch of idiot people keeping this information. That wouldn't get us very far, would it? No, we have to give it to the smartest people. To the smartest, most stubborn, annoying people ever. Yeah, that's me and you, guys. Because God says, don't believe in me. Don't believe in me. I mean, there's a bunch of people who believe in anything, right? A monkey god. They'll believe in, I mean, come on. We know what they believe in. The Jews, not so easy to get them to believe. Got to prove it. We need to bring receipts. We need to satisfy our intellectual and our spiritual and our, just logical selves. Go and learn. We're not afraid to do that. You have no questions that haven't been asked by smarter people than you all throughout history. Believe me. Don't believe me? Go back and look. I also have another class called Why God Commanded the Jews Not to Believe. He commanded us to learn and to know. Okay, so my great uncle, he dies. He gets buried on the kibbutz in a casket, in a big thick casket, where we're not supposed to be buried in a casket. We're supposed to be buried with touching the the ground. I mean, there's so many laws of burial, the laws of mourning. It is necessary that the corpse actually be buried in the earth, because as long as the body remains whole, it is punished together with the soul, and the deceased endures great agony. It is only after the body decays that the soul can rest in peace. Only then is there fulfillment of the verse, "He does not stir up all his wrath." That's Tehillim, Psalms 78:38. It is therefore good for saints as well as ordinary people to have their bodies actually touch the earth. Now, okay, that's, I guess, Judaism 101. But since we've strayed so far, we're a bunch of know-it-alls that don't need the Torah, and we don't need the Torah and the mitzvot. We don't need to know anything. We don't even need to think about our death. Just like the Goyim do, right? They don't think about death. They think about YOLO. They think about nonsense. They think about the Super Bowl. They think about their nonsense, holidays that mean zero, that mean nothing. Oh, you see your family once a year at Christmas or whatever. Great. Fine. It means nothing. All of our moadim, all of our holidays and all of the times and the festivals and the weekly cycles and the monthly cycles of the moon, everything means something spiritual. And it means that you need to be aware of the time. So my great uncle gets buried in a big casket. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, according to Judaism, it means that he's going to suffer until his body is able to decay. And it's going to take him a lot longer to decay, trying to get through that casket that they put him in. Okay? And so it's upsetting. It's upsetting because I know, what about my grandparents? What about, were they buried according to the Jewish laws? Did anyone say Kaddish for them? Is anyone saying Kaddish for your parents, your grandparents? You are letting them down, and it's their fault, sure, because they didn't teach you better. Because they strayed. And it's understandable. God even says in Deuteronomy that when the nation strays, when at the end of time you stray, I think it's Deuteronomy 32, okay, Dvarim 32, he says, when the nation of Israel at the end of time has strayed so far from me, I'm just paraphrasing, obviously, okay? That when they do that and they look for me, you will find him. He promises that if you give a wholehearted search and you look for God, you will find him. Do not be so skeptical. Don't be so skeptical. There is a God. He just wants you to learn. It isn't about belief. It's initially about understanding. Look around you into your reality. And then look for God and you will find him. He promises you that. And it happened to me. I am a witness. I'm telling you. I was also just something else than I am today. And now I look back and I see, even just right now, my great uncle got buried in a casket in Eretz Israel. Eretz Israel, the land of Israel. Why is that so important for the Jew? Because being buried here, the earth, the holy land, when you bury the holy nation in the holy land, a lot of your sins are forgiven. Kapara, Yom Kippur, kapara. You're forgiven for some of your sins. So why would you, why, you see how sad it is? And then I ask myself, why are we here? Why are you all fighting for the land just because we want to survive as a people? Why? Why do you want to survive? You want to survive to what? To buy more stuff? To become more popular, prettier, skinnier, have more money? How are you even making money now? I've heard so many things are so disgusting. Oh, I gave up being a lawyer because I make more money on OnlyFans. Good for you. Is that what we're about at this point? Look around you. Is there justice and truth and peace? It says in Sota, that's the way, what the world is surviving on. Justice, law, and peace. No, I'm sorry, truth. Truth, law, and peace. Look at what's happening to the truth. Isn't it being manipulated over and over again? Can you even discern what the truth is in your reality at this point? What's true? What's a lie? What's a big psyop? And what's the truth? You figure it out. Or just retune your brain into the Torah, because that is the ultimate objective truth. Okay, so as a nation, I'm asking, where are we going anymore? What are we living for? What are we fighting for? Why do we want to live? Even as a nation of a nation of Israel, in the land of Israel. There was a time when we were a lot more united. At least. We've kind of come back a little bit after October 7th, but still, there's such deep divisions in us because so many have zero clue of God and the Torah, and they still harbor a hate for the Jewish people who learn and keep Torah. They still, because they do not understand, because they have no basis, they have no background, they have no understanding to even begin to understand why the Torah observant Jews live the way they live and do the things they do. And I know this because I was just with my cousins who are all secular, and totally fine to bury my great uncle in a big thick casket in Israel. Not to mention, what about Kaddish? There's certain things we have to do for the dead. There's certain things that we want people to do for us when we die, because we are all going to die. Like Rav Kuli here says that what the most certain thing is that we're going to die. And so it's so important to know what's going to happen. And even if we don't die, okay, let's just say we don't die now. Let's just say for some reason we're not all going to die of natural causes or diseases or whatever. It's the year 5,784 out of 6,000. The world itself is going to end. Okay, this time element is coming to an end. And there's all different ways that it could be. It could be what people call Planet X. Okay, so people are like, why are all the billionaires building bunkers? Well, it's probably because of Planet X. Okay, and even if you don't know about Planet X, it's called Kochav Yaakov. It's called the Star of Jacob. Okay, Jacob. Okay, it's called the Star of Jacob. It's a Planet X. That could be it. Could be war, could be famine. Could be, I mean, look at just all of the prophecies. Joel says it could be famine, and we know the WEF wants to starve us to death, which is basically just the playbook of Joseph in Egypt. Okay? Because everything that he's doing, the WEF seems to want to do. Okay? So eventually, in order to eat, you're going to sell your land. And then everyone is going to be a slave to Egypt again. Which this time, it's not going to be called Egypt, it's going to be called the WEF. It's not called Tower of Babel, it's going to be called the WEF, or the UN, or the New World Order. It says King Solomon again, that there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that has happened, there's nothing new. Literally, the New World Order is not new. So questions, again, what are we living for if we don't have this ideal? So like I said, okay, in volume 32, it says, go back and search for me, because at the end of time, you will be looking for answers. You should be looking for answers, and you will find them in the Torah. And then you'll know what to do. There won't be so many questions, and we'll all be united in a cause. So he says, when you stray, and that's meant to mean they know that this idealism of an entire nation was impossible for any nation to maintain over time. He knows that. Yes, it's natural, it's obvious. We strayed. It says that even in the Torah, that we are going to stray. But know that when you stray, you can come back, and you should come back, and you're obligated actually to come back. And so now I'm saying, what do we owe to our ancestors throughout all time that kept Judaism for us? They kept it, and they had a lot more difficult at times. You know, we're reminded of the women of our lineages that, you know, trekked a few miles in the snow or whatever to go and chip through the ice of a river in order to do a mikveh. And now we're not even keeping family purity. Ew, a mikveh, it's so disgusting. It's so nice. Most places. It's so good for you spiritually. You are impure AF if you have never been to a mikveh, and also for men. Okay? He commands us simply to be a holy nation. How are we being a holy nation? With the Torah. Why are we in the land of Israel? Because of the Torah. Who is the nation of Israel? Who is the holy nation of Israel at this point? We need to unite with a cause. We need to get back that idealism that we had. And you can do that by learning about our history, about our forefathers, mothers, about the traditions, about all of history that was handed down from father to son, father to son, father to son, father to son in an unbroken chain. You can't even trust that this actually is the year. 4. I mean, go look at their calendar. Go figure out all the gaps in that history. And you know who writes history? The victor writes history. Great. You know who wrote history here? It's unbroken chain of people that you can trust. And so, yes, I'm just distraught a little bit, because I know that, you know, there's things that happen after you die. I'm trying to do what I can for my grandparents, whatever. I think that would be nice if everyone looked into that, made sure that someone's saying Kaddish for them on their yard sites. What's a yard site? What's Kaddish? Yeah, go talk to an Orthodox rabbi. Just start somewhere. Because what are we just living for what? Even Israel, I just want to know, like, at this point, like, housing's so completely ridiculous here. I mean, everywhere it's kind of getting like that. Part of the you'll own nothing and be happy agenda 2030, right? So what are we living for at this point? You know, things you got to think about sometimes. Would be really happy if someone made it this far, 40 minutes and 19 seconds. Want to drop me a note. Now, made this. I have 47 listeners right now, or subscribers, and thank you so much. None of which are the people I started this channel for, unfortunately. But we all matter. We're all important. We really are. We all have our own goal in this reality. We all have our own things that we need to fix. That's what Tikkun Olam is. It's that we ourselves, there's nobody else. And a lot of our sages, I just read this over Shabbat, and I think it was a Ramchal in Mesilat Yesharim, and I'm pretty sure it was. This is an amazing book. Ramchal was so special and so smart. This is the translation and commentary by Rav Avigdor Miller. Yeah, Mesilat Yesharim. And he says that basically, like, every part of history, everything that's happened up until now was created exactly for you. You were put in this time and space. You were put in this time and this space for a very special reason. Only you can do the work, the spiritual work that needs to be done in your situation. It's not random. So wherever you are, it's where you are starting for right now, to be aware of God, to be aware of your reality, and to make the tikkun. And when all of us Jews make that tikkun, then we will do tikkun olam, which you may have heard of. Tikkun olam, it's fixing the world. How do we do that? Not by just doing mitzvot, like some cults would have you believe. No, by repenting and getting this connection back. We need this connection. That's what we are tasked with. It's said that after the flood, okay, so when Adam sinned, the presence of God moved back up so there's different levels they're called rakia, okay? And there's like 7, I believe, okay? Don't get me, I'm not a rabbi, okay? But so when Adam sinned, okay, so the Shekhinah, the aspect of God that was in our physical reality, it went up, like it was here in our reality, and then it moved up because it can't be where there's sin, and Adam sinned. And then when Cain sinned by killing Abel, it went up again. And when the flood happened, it went up again. And then it kept on going up until Avraham Avinu brought it down again. He became so, that's the how special Avraham was. He was able to bring the aspect of God back down into our physical universe. And then Yitzchak did, when he offered himself as a sacrifice, brought it back down. And then Yaakov brought it back down. And then Moses brought it back down. And then there was a connection when there was a temple. Okay? And so that's what we are supposed to do as Jews. That would be the tikkun. So we all have to do that in ourselves. We have to do it for ourselves. And then we have to do it as a nation. Okay, any questions? So also, I mean, it really behooves you as a Jew to get your Jewish ideology in order in your house, so you can make sure also that when you die, because that's for sure going to happen, that somebody helps you, somebody buries you without a casket in Eretz Yisrael if possible. And if not, then buries you the Jewish way, with the Jewish prayers, with the Jewish everything, so that you can belong over here. Because the unholy side, it's not good, guys. It's not good. It's worse than you probably think, by the way. So feedback is appreciated. Unless you're going to tell me, man, from the river to the sea, you're all baby killers. Like, I doubt you got this far if that's what you're going to say. But anyway, have a nice day.